Hello, I'm Joel Franklin. Welcome to this month's JLG webinar series, Falling for New Teen Books from JLG, with Deborah Ford and Leslie Bermel. Today our experts will talk about some of the fall releases for teenage readers, from a Nagasaki survivor to a queen known for shouting, "Off with their heads." You'll find diverse books for grades 6 and up in today's 30-minute broadcast. But before we find out more, I have a few housekeeping items. Please turn off pop-up blockers in your browser, as these may cause problems when viewing the webinar. If you're experiencing any technical problems, please use the Help button on the audience console, and the webinar tech team will get to you as soon as possible. If your screen becomes locked, try using F5 to refresh the webinar console. And if you're on a Mac, use Command R. Need credit? A certificate for continuing education credit is available in the certification folder. It will also be available in the archived presentation. If you have any questions or comments, you can send those in at any time via the red Q&A box. And please join the conversation on Twitter. You can tweet us at JRLibraryGuild and use the hashtag JLGWebinars. With the election just around the corner, there has been much discussion and even controversy about immigration in the news. Deb, don't you have a book that reveals the backstory of an illegal immigrant?
I do. And it's perfectly timely. The Distance Between Us. This is a young reader's edition, and it's in our biography for middle school, which actually is a new category. But it tells the story of Reina Grande and how she was first an illegal immigrant in Mexico, and how she and her siblings and her father ran the border. I think that's what they say. And it just, I don't know about you, Leslie, but it made me want to go to Mexico and save all the children.
Yeah. We hear horror stories of children who risk life and limb to come across that border, and this one certainly drives that home.
It does. And then, bless her heart, she finally got to school, a real school, and she had a great teacher, like many of you, and the teacher took her under her wing, and she went to college, and so this is her story. And I think it will open the eyes to a lot of kids to see the other side of the story.
Speaking of the other side of the story, oh boy, Not As We Know It is the story of two brothers, and this book, by the way, is by Tom Avery, and it's in our upper elementary middle school category. So Jamie and his brother Ned are best friends, and they're twins, and they are basically joined at the hip. They do everything together, from treasure hunting at the shore to watching Star Trek episodes on DVD. Ned is struggling with cystic fibrosis, and Jamie stays by his side and continues to hope that Ned will get better. On a particular day, the two boys are exploring the shore, and they find an injured creature that has washed up on shore, and it's half alive. It's definitely injured, and the boys try very hard to drag it home, and they get it home and place it in a bathtub in their garage, and they fill it with salt water, and they're hoping to make it better. Meanwhile, Ned's illness is progressing at a rate where he is becoming resistant to his therapy and becoming much sicker, and so he's spending a lot more time on the sofa watching those Star Trek episodes. Jamie is thinking that the creature is there to bring hope and maybe to help heal his brother, and Ned and the creature seem to be growing closer while Jamie is kind of drifting apart. One of the things that I thought was very touching about this book is the relationship between these boys and their grandfather, who's a fisherman, and he has told them the story of a creature that is rather mysterious, and the boys are kind of thinking that maybe this is who that is. By the way, this book, Not As We Know It, is a little bit of a tissue book. That's an understatement, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we have several of those coming, and the next one is definitely one that will have you needing a box of tissues and not just a couple. Miss Bixby's Last Day by John David Anderson is also in our B+ category, so it's upper elementary and middle school as well. Three best friends, Topher, Brand, and Steve, are excited when they find out that they're all going to be in the same sixth grade classroom together, and they've got the best teacher in the world.
Yay!
I know. she dyes her hair pink, and they're super excited that that they're all in this class together. And one of the things that I thought was very sweet is that it's the story of different kinds of teachers. That different kinds of teachers exist: the good ones, the not so good ones, the boring ones, the mean ones, the ones who try too hard, the ones you'll never remember, and the ones you want to forget. And Miss Bixby's like none of those. So while they're in the school year, it turns out that Miss Bixby announces that she is unable to continue or finish the school year. So the class decides to hold her a temporary goodbye party because she's assured them that she is going to leave for a while, get healthy, and come back in the fall. And so the class has planned this goodbye party, and a few days before the party, the principal comes to the classroom and tells the kids that she is unable to be there. She's going to have to take her leave earlier than expected. Topher, Brand, and Steve have made a decision to skip school and go on a quest to kind of find all of the things that Miss Bixby has said would make her last day the best. And so I'm going to tell you what, folks, this is amazing. One of the reviews of the book by Soman Chinani is what a beautiful book, a full-hearted and emotional exploration of friendship, grief, imagination, and the inner life of boys. But most of all, it reminds us the power of the good ones, the once-in-a-lifetime teachers who not only saved us but also became part of us long after they're gone. Kids won't just love this book, they need it. It made me laugh. It made me cry. It was an amazing, amazing piece.
It was. My favorite part is the cake in the backpack.
The cake in the backpack was awesome.
Tell Us Something True is ironically about a boy who cannot do that.
He can't be truthful.
He cannot be truthful, and he gets himself into a big old hole. So here's a book for our young adults in the City High category. Up until the afternoon Penny Brockaway dumped me in the middle of Echo Park Lake, I didn't believe in fate. But then, after he gets dumped, he has no way home because he doesn't drive. And, of course, nobody drives in L.A., so he decides to walk, which is ridiculous. But as he's walking, it was right at that moment when I was about to fall apart in the middle of the empty sidewalk, which had probably never seen a pedestrian, as the sun finally disappeared in front of me and there was nothing left to guide my way, that I saw it. The sign, painted black and fading on a tattered white awning, a second chance. The sign was put there for me. And so he walks into a meeting all upset about losing his girlfriend, and it turns out that the reason the people are there is because they all have an addiction. They have a problem. His problem is he got dumped. But he gets himself into, it makes him feel better. He likes being in that group. And so he starts spending his Saturdays at this group, and he just is having trouble finding the true thing.
Well, boy, Soldier Sister Fly Home was one of those books for me that I have been anticipating for quite a long time. I knew about this book a little over a year ago, and I was super excited that it was an Native American Indian story of some. This is the story of Tess, who's a 14-year-old, and she's half white and half Navajo. She's struggling with her ethnicity, trying to figure out who she is while she attends a school in Flagstaff. People tease her for being an Indian and call her Pocahontas, and then while she's on the res, she doesn't feel Indian enough. So this is an internal struggle that's happening in Tessa's world. She's closer than close with her older sister, Gabby, but now Gabby has decided that she's going to enlist in the Army, and it really annoys Tess because she needs her big sister. Gabby has decided to enlist when Lori, her friend, has been killed in action and was first Native American female to be killed in action. And this actually, Nancy Boflood, who's the author of this book, wove in this true story of Lori, and I'm not sure if I'm saying the last name right, Pestwa, the first female Native American to be killed in the Iraq War, is true. And so Tess is confused and upset and looking forward to spending time with her sister, but when her sister is called up a little bit earlier than what they thought, their visit's cut short. Tess has been asked by Gabby to take charge of Gabby's horse, Blue. And Tess and Blue have a very uneasy relationship, and it's very evident in some of the things that happen between Tess and Blue. And Tess is normally not riding this horse; she's leading it by its halter. Tess alternates again between Flagstaff and is being sent to go and live with her grandmother over the summer in the canyon where they're herding sheep. And she takes Blue with her, and it's an amazing thing what happens. This coming of age story about learning how to be Navajo and where your home really is, and how this horse helps her find that.
And another diverse story is about the girl who escaped ISIS. This is in our adult crossover nonfiction, which is another new category. And in fact, I was reading this just recently on a plane when my new husband was reading over my shoulder while I'm reading this book. And finally I said to him, would you like to read this when I'm finished? He said, yes, I would. And so he read it coming back from Seattle. And both of us just were gripped by this horrific story of this girl who escaped. So I was really glad to know that this was her memoir and her story, because it almost makes it easier, if that is such a thing, to read the story, because you know she survives. She won't ever be the same.
Right.
But this is a story we need to know about a girl whose village literally was attacked. They killed all the men and the boys except for a few that pretended to be dead, and took the girls and sold them into slavery. It hurts your heart. And you can't even tell yourself it's just a book. It's not true, because it is.
Yes.
It is.
Very true. What is not true,
thank goodness,
is this book, graphic novel by Matt Phelan. I loved this book, and it's an amazing retelling of Snow White that is set during the glitz and the glam of the pre-Depression era in New York City, so in the late 20s. Life is good in the big city, and people are living it up. It's very evident in the beginning of this book with beautiful illustrations that are done in black and white. There are little touches of red and some very not so subtle places that I think you're going to find very intriguing. But this whole lead up to where the stock market crashes, and it sends everyone into a tailspin. And I think Deb has put up the inside in some of the interior pictures. But this is when Samantha's father, has lost part of his fortune to the stock market crash, and his new wife, Samantha's stepmother, has maybe a hand in his untimely death because she's mad about the loss in the stock market crash, and she's desperate for more wealth and attention. She wants it all for herself. After the reading of the will, which there was an amendment done the very day before Samantha's father died, the stepmother is further enraged by the knowledge that the bulk of the estate's been willed to Samantha. And we see the stepmother's jealousy unravel in this mostly black and white, again, graphic novel that Matt Phelan has, oh my gosh, he's worked in the most amazing way to bring the Seven Dwarfs in by using a gang of street kids that come to Snow's rescue, and a prince who is actually a police detective. Loved it.
Oh, yeah. Again, kind of in the fantasy world, a little bit. Except I declare the more I read kids' books, the more I have a hard time paying attention that, oh, yeah, this is fantasy. It's perfectly logical to me, some of these things that I'm reading. So The Girl Who Drank the Moon, 5-star reviews and Junior Library Guild
this is on
selection. This one is
a
must read. Yeah, for sure. So middle and high school, just go on, just put it on your wish list and jump it into your shopping cart right now this second while we still have some. But it's the story of the left hand for sure doesn't know what the right hand is doing, and you do not know who the bad guy is. Nope, you don't. And so in this village, every year they make a sacrifice of the youngest child and leave the babe in the woods. And the priests take the babe out there and hope for the best. And then they go back to their mournful, sorrowful, we have an awful life. While on the other side of the forest, there is actually a witch who keeps wondering, why are the villagers giving away this baby? Don't they know there are bad things in the woods and somebody will eat this baby? So I must take the baby and save her or him. And so I'm going back over to the other side of the mountains and give these children that have been tossed out to families who will love them. Until one day she happens to pick up the child, and the child accidentally drinks from the moon. Mm-hmm. And at that point, she realizes that the baby will be magical, and she can't just pass her off onto the village. And so Zen keeps her, raises her as her own, names her Luna, until one day we realize she's got way more magic than she knows how to handle. Your kids will love this book.
I love that book. So up next is the true story of Robert Hogue, called Ugly. And if anyone read the book Wonder, this is like the real-life character from Wonder, the real-life Augie. He starts off by saying we all have scars only we can own. When he was born, he had a tumor the size of a tennis ball right smack in the middle of his face. And his legs were short and twisted, and his mother did not want him. She resisted the need to even look at him when she realized what was wrong with him. He stayed in the hospital for a month and a few days before his mom, after consulting with the family, decided to bring him home. His tumor was removed from his face, and from one of his misshapen feet, a toe was taken, and the cartilage and soft tissue were formed into a nose on Robert's face. But he has known, of course, all along, and people never let him forget it, that he was ugly, and strangers stared at him, kids called him names, and adults were cruel as well. But one of the things that Robert was born with that not everyone has the benefit of is a sense of humor. And so he went through life refusing to be classified by his ugliness, and decided to make his life much better through a series of fun events that happened for him, pranks that he would play in school. One of the most compelling things that I thought about this book was the fact that all of this bullying that happened to him, and he turned into a bully himself. And when he was in high school, there was another kid who called him a name that he has still not gotten over. It still is with him today, and he turned the table on this kid and drew a picture of him. He had a very large nose, and the principal called him in, and the boy was severely affected by the bullying that Robert heaped on him. And it was kind of an unusual story, one that I think every person should read. And I will tell you that after talking with a librarian in Oklahoma a couple weeks ago who had invited him to her school, she said he is the most compelling speaker that she's ever run across. He lives in Australia and is married now, and he has 2 daughters. But what an impactful story.
And it's part of our long-awaited, maybe for some folks, the PG middle.
Yep. Those are they're engaging books for middle school students that don't rely on edgy or intensely violent content. So they're safe for everyone.
Right. So if you're elementary and you've got a higher grade reader, then here's you a category. And if you're high school and you have lower grade readers, here you go. And there's also one for high school. The more I read, the more I realize I don't know things.
How are we to know everything?
I don't know. I don't know if I just didn't live through it or I wasn't paying attention. But in this case, I wasn't that old, but kind of I was.
Anna, you were?
Yeah, because, I mean, this is the Berlin Wall. Wasn't I around? I mean, I remember when it fell, vaguely.
Yes.
Yeah.
You were around.
I was, which is sad. That means it's historical fiction.
Okay.
So, anyway, Chapter 1, Going, Going, Gone. Noah knew something was up the moment he saw his mother that May afternoon in 5th grade. She swooped up in a car he didn't realize. That was recognized. That was the first thing. And secondly, his father was sitting in the other front seat, and in Noah's family, picking up kids at school was a one-parent activity. Hi, he said to his parents. What happened to our car? What's all the luggage about? Shut that door, said his mother. Rental car. We have to hurry. It's a sudden adventure. And hand that backpack up to your father. Well, the next thing you know, his father's going through the backpack, and they stop at a rest area where they pitch his brand-new Batman backpack. And now he's got this ugly, awful thing. Then they tell him, oh, by the way, your name's not Noah. and our names are not. And so the next thing you know, Noah is going to Berlin. He's going to Germany to live on the other side of the wall, live a new life with parents who have different names, and he's not allowed to talk inside their apartment because people are listening. This is the story of a boy who goes into East Berlin and what happens on that side of the wall. Yeah, it's must read. Oh, it does have a few things in it. You know, sometimes people ask us about, you know, potentially sensitive issue. Well, we mentioned that before with PG. This book has some discrimination, and of course it has war, so people are not nice. But remember that as a JLG member, if you're logged into your account, you can see that potentially sensitive content and decide what you want to do with it.
Yeah, and speaking of potentially sensitive content, there might be a little bit in this book called My Lady Jane, which is in our current trends high school category. It's by Cynthia Hand, Brody Ashton, and Jody Meadows. Yes, 3 authors.
I love this book so much.
I love this book so much.
I laugh so hard.
Everybody who reads it loves this book.
I laugh so hard.
So, Deb, do you remember the story of Lady Jane Grey back when?
I do.
Ages ago. I was exposed to her life because of a movie in the 80s that starred Helena Bonham Carter, where she played the character Lady Jane. And I remember being so deeply moved about poor cousin King Edward that through the machinations of this scheming minister, she's maneuvered onto the throne after Edward dies, and the 2 daughters of Henry VIII aren't too happy about having the throne stolen from them. And then you've got the Catholics and the Protestants and all the stuff that brought to in Old England, and not so jolly Old England. So if you're expecting this story to be more of the same, you'd be wrong. This is told in 3 points of view through the eyes of Edward, Jane, and G, also known as Gifford. This retelling and borrowing of a historical place and time will make you laugh out loud, and as they read the really not so true story of Lady Jane Grey.
We'll never know. We weren't even there. Another very, as if right out of the headlines, hidden. This is a story about Alex and her new friend Samir, who speaks Arabic. They watch a man who's been beaten up, which they don't find at first, but a speedy boat dumps him into the frozen winter water, and she can't help but just go, I got to save him. She doesn't think. She just runs in, saves him, pulls him out. He doesn't speak her language. It takes place in England, and but her friend does. He speaks Arabic like the man. And so they later learned that he is an illegal refugee. And the reason he's run away is because he got turned down once. And because they've already killed his brother, he's afraid to go back because they'll kill him too.
Yeah.
And so these 2 teenagers make a decision to hide this guy. And the whole time I'm reading it, I'm thinking, what would I do?
How do you hide somebody?
How do you hide somebody? And, you know, what about your parents? And so this would be a really great book discussion right out of the news lines.
Not in the news lines, but yet another kind of classic fairy tale is Heartless by Marissa Meyer. I've been waiting for this book and waiting for it, and here it is. It's in our current trends high school, and this is the untold story of Queen of Hearts. So Catherine has a lot going for her in Wonderland. She's lovely, talented, and born into a well-to-do, respected family. Unfortunately, she's also captured the attention of the unmarried king. Catherine also has a talent for baking and dreams of opening her own bake shop with her very best friend and maid. However, things don't go quite according to plan because her mother has a plan as well. And her mother wants to marry her daughter off to the king. During a ball where the marriage announcement is expected any moment, Catherine runs out of the ball and right into the arms of the new court jester. His name is. And Justin and Catherine have a chemistry unlike anything she's ever felt before, and so they enter into a secret courtship. Kat is torn between her need to please her parents and following her own path.
The Inquisitor's Tale, or The Three Magical Children and Their Holy Dog.
I love holy dogs.
I imagine you do. That's all I'm going to say. So we have Jean, who lives in a village, and she has prophetic visions. We have William, who is whose father was an African, and he's being raised in a monastery, and he has amazing strength. And we have Jacob, who can heal anything with herbs and stuff. He's a Jewish boy whose village is burned down. And then we have the dog. The dog died and came back. And the story is it's not even a modern day because it happens in 1242. But
definitely not modern day.
No, but it has that sort of language. You know, if I said it was a Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, you know, some of your kids would go, "Oh no, we already have to read that maybe." Mm-hmm. But the language has the flavor, but it has a modern feeling to it. So I think kids can handle the language, and it's told in different stories of people who saw these three kids and tell their story until we finally catch up, and the Inquisitor himself takes the three and their dog onto the rest of the journey.
Getting great reviews.
Yes.
Okay, oh boy, this is such a departure from everything else we've talked about. You Will Not Cry, although these are called Sad Animal Facts. This is a compendium of the animal kingdom's more unfortunate truths about animals, filled with 150 hand-drawn illustrations and sorted by type. Fish have their own section, or insects and arachnids. And Deb has just put one of my favorite up there about the lemurs. Boy, imagine if we used that as a catalyst for electing our new president, the one who smelled the worst. However, Deb, do you know what pigeons and I have in common?
No.
Well, pigeons put off things they don't want to do. So the graphic is a pigeon, and it says, "Next week seems like a great time to get started on that." Yeah.
That's hilarious.
I know. I knew you would find that kind of
I'm going to cry. I'm laughing so hard. Dive. And this is a perfect time to also bring up resources that we're finding as we look at these books. This is a nonfiction for middle grade, but you know you can't have enough World War II books.
Never. And there seems to be several of them in our span this time.
There are several, and really amazing ones. This one is about submarine stories from World War II, told by the people who lived to tell the story. And they're interspersed with background details. So if somebody missed it or need a little bit more, there's primary source documents, and of course it's Deborah Hopkinson, so it's thoroughly researched. And so we'll be putting a lot of those in the live binder.
Okay, in the Assassin's Game by Kirsty McKay, this is in our paperback high school category. The cover is really spooky, but I don't know that if kids are scared of spooky stories that they shouldn't read this, because it's not all that terribly spooky, but it's the story of a girl who's gone to live on a remote island to attend an exclusive boarding school. She is not popular in any way, and she's surprised when she receives an invitation to be an initiate to the Assassin's Guild, which is a very exclusive kind of everyone who's it plays this game. So each year the guild takes on new players, and it's a game called Killer. Members of the guild are killed off during the year using tricks, but it's nothing dangerous and nothing illegal until the game changes for real. Readers,
dun, dun, dun. That's where I'm supposed to say dun, dun, dun.
We'll just leave it at that.
Yep.
All right. And then next up for me is Pasadena by Sherry L. Smith. It's in our high-interest reading high school category. Jude's best friend Maggie is found dead at the bottom of a swimming pool with a belly full of drugs, and her family thinks it was just a tragic accident. Her friends think it was suicide, but Jude thinks for sure that her friend was murdered. And so now she's digging up all kinds of things in the past, trying to figure out who killed her best friend, and maybe some of those things should be just left where they are, but Jude is on a mission. I loved the comments that were provided by Emily Lockhart, and she said, "Beautiful clothes, bad habits, ugly secrets." This is a book that probes the vulnerable underbellies of a lot of toothy sharks in this page-turning California noir. Pasadena's stylish and still sad, chilling and still hopeful, open-hearted and still mysterious.
Like The Girl Who Escaped from ISIS, our last official book, Sachiko, is the survival story of a little girl who survived the Nagasaki bombing.
Yeah.
And just like the girl who survived Farida, the girls who escaped from ISIS, not without lots of pain and suffering. And Sachiko is now going around the country and sharing her story, something that she couldn't talk about for 50 years. But it's interspersed with primary source document. And when Karen decided that she heard her speak,
yes,
and she decided this story should be told. People need to hear war is a terrible thing, and they need to hear what happened in this particular event. And so she approached her with an idea of writing a biography, a memoir, a story. And she said, I'll only do it if we can sit across from each other.
Yep.
And so they sat across from each other over a period of 5 years where they recorded and got to the heart of the story and learned all about this little girl and how she survived the war. An amazing, amazing story that couldn't think of any others that are like this.
I've not ever run across a book like this.
Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing.
And I'm going to squeeze one more book in because I just got it this morning when I came back from my 10-day trip on the West Coast. But Tanya Anderson has a new book called Gunpowder Girls, and it takes place during the Civil War. And Women and War. One brings life into the world and the other takes life away.
Right.
Throughout history, women have been the healers, the supporters, and the strong foundations for families and friendships. They have championed causes that lift up those who have been pushed down by society and government. When they could not lead through power, women have led by example. And this is the story of girls that did.
Yeah, that's a really touching story. And the cover art was created by our very own graphic artist.
Yes, Tracy May. All right. So, if we had more time, Miss Leslie,
we could talk about so many more books.
Oh, to stay alive. You know, again, you have to be alive to talk about surviving the Donner Party thing. Just saying. And then I would have talked about The Best Man, Richard Peck's new book, and The World from Up Here, which made me cry, and Fallen Over Sideways, which really made me cry, and Leave Me. Adult, Gail Foreman. You can't help but love. And every single second, Trisha stuff, spring stuff. Don't miss this book. It's very timely, very diverse. You'll love these books. And remember that in addition to telling you about great books, that we're also creating resources to help you use them. So you'll find these resources for today's and other selections in our JLG Book Talks to Go Fall Live Binder. Thanks again to Erin and Kaylee for helping to fill that thing out. And thanks to Jeanette, who, in case you didn't know, is adding a Live Binder tab to all the book detail pages as we finish them. So everything you need will be on the JLG website.
And speaking of our website, juniorlibraryguild.com, check it out after the webcast for the recap blog post. You'll find book talks on the books we didn't have time to share, and you'll also find a list of all the books with links to their book detail pages and other resources. And join us on November 1st at 3 o'clock when Leslie Bermel will chat with Barbara O'Connor, Sarah Pennypacker, and Candace Fleming. Leslie, what can we expect from that webcast?
Well, we might learn a little bit more about a fox. We might learn more about a girl's secret wishes, and we might learn a little bit more about giant squids and perhaps Buffalo Bill.
That sounds great. I can't wait for that one. Thanks again, Leslie and Deb, for spending some time with us. And be sure to ask your account rep about all our new categories or contact our sales department for more information. Tomorrow, you'll receive an automatic email regarding today's webinar. If you follow the link, you can watch the archived webinar and print your certificate of attendance after 10 minutes of viewing. Until next time, thanks again for joining us, and happy reading.